Hi. I love being the person in between people and their lunch, so just stick with me a little bit. And I also love the skit that you guys did where you guys are UH employees. If I had a team this large, I think I would finally be happy. But my team isn't large. And you heard a little bit about university hospitals, and I want to tell you a little bit about what I do and what my team does. So the first thing that we do is solve problems. And that could be anything. So that could be a problem that the call center's having. That could be a problem with marketing. It really runs the gamut across the entire organization. And that's changing on a monthly basis. So it's always exciting and always something new. The main point of my group is that we use technology to improve the patient experience and the business side of it. So that's why we get to use great tools like Invoca to push us further along the path and speed up that process. Additionally, one thing that we're in charge of is looking at that journey. The online and the offline touch points that people have when they interact with our business, from the moment they see an ad to make a phone call and then walking in to the location and having a face-to-face conversation with the doctor, what does that whole journey look like? And how can we improve that? Additionally, access. So the way that we define access is, as a hospital, if somebody is reaching out to us for an appointment, did they get an appointment when they want to? And if they didn't, what issue were they having and how do we fix that? And then lastly, optimizing our return on investment. So I do sit on the marketing team. Some of the stuff that I'll talk about today, you might think, oh, why is marketing in charge of that? And I ask myself that same question all the time. But it's a great place to be, and we've really been able to reach into other groups within the organization and expand those relationships. But one of our things is optimizing our marketing spend. So just in 2019 alone, we've been able to take our ROI from 11 to 1 to 20 to 1 just by optimizing that performance. Thank you. Keep it coming. I'll give you my boss's email address if you want to tell him I'm doing a great job. So when I tell people what I do, I have a really hard time because it's changing all the time and it's different all the time. But if you look at the carpet underneath your feet right now, this carpet was installed for a purpose. It's clearly not the most beautiful carpet, but it's functional. It's a high traffic area. All of us are in here eating candy, drinking our coffee. So the purpose of this carpet is to hide the stains and the dirt and the coffee spills. And if you take a step back and look at your business like that, what tools have we implemented within our business that aren't there to fix the problem? They're just there to cover it up. What Band-Aid fixes have we implemented that aren't actually helping the customer or helping the experience? And that's what my team does. That's how we look at the business. That's how we use Invoca as a technology to find out what those things are. So I'm going to take you through some of those right now. When we first implemented Invoca, it was 2017, so we've been doing this for a while, and it's been an awesome journey. So throughout that process, this is some of the stuff that we came across. One of them was call transferring. So we get almost 500,000 phone calls per month. That's a lot, and everybody has a different journey. So if you call one part of the organization, but you need to go somewhere else, you're not having the same journey that somebody else would have. So our agents had a hard time knowing exactly where to send that patient, and people would get lost in that process. So it was a difficult journey for them. Additionally, one of those Band-Aid fixes that were put in place that we discovered was a messaging service that we were using. So this messaging service was a third-party vendor. If you call after business hours or when the office isn't available, you go to the messaging service, they take down your name, number, a little bit of information, then they pass it on to the doctor's office, and then hopefully the doctor's office gets that and then calls you back, and it was kind of a mess. And that was one of the things that we discovered was how much we were actually utilizing that. But again, it wasn't good for the business, it wasn't good for the patient. So that was something we needed to address. Another one that we found when we first started using signal discovery was how many people were asking for directions. So the first time I looked at one of our topics, I opened up the bubble that you guys just saw, and it said like Bob Evans and Bahama Breeze. And I'm like, what is this? Like somebody messed up somewhere. But as we started listening to those call examples, what we saw was that people were asking for directions to our locations. And the agents that were answering the phone would say, oh, we're on this road right next to Bahama Breeze or right next to Bob Evans. So it started to make sense of those words that just didn't fit in. Also, with the call center that we work closely with, when we started looking into what they were doing and how they were doing it, one of the things we noticed was they weren't given the technology they needed to do their job in the best way. So every day they worked within 18 different platforms, and they'd have all 18 of those windows open at the same time. And just sitting behind them, watching them do their magic was amazing. I did go from a standpoint of, these people are not doing their jobs well at all, like let's get rid of all of them, to, oh my gosh, I feel so bad for all of you after seeing what they have to go through. Because us just listening to the calls and not being in the call center or the contact center, we don't have any idea of what goes into that. So it was nice to take a step back. And as I mentioned before, the variability. There was no process or standard journey for everybody that was contacting university hospitals. And as a brand, we want to make sure that when you contact us, that you have a smooth journey and that your journey is just like someone else who's trying to get an appointment, so that we can better manage that journey and improve it along the way. And then lastly, voicemail. So this is something that we discovered recently with signal discovery. It was another Band-Aid fix that we would use for doctors' offices. So doctors' offices are not call centers. They're not staffed for that. So if they're getting a high amount of call volume, because our marketing is so awesome, they just can't handle the call volume, it'll go to voicemail. And then hopefully that doctor's office has time to call you back. But then when they do, you're eating lunch, or you're not available, or your kid's crying. So again, not the best experience. So I want to take you on a little journey, because when I saw all of this, it's like, okay, this is a ton of problems. And my reaction to that was this. So Damon John had that very professional picture of him up here, and I get this. So that's great. So when I discovered all of those problems, I was a senior strategist, like 10 levels below anybody of importance. And hierarchy and structure is really important in healthcare, apparently. I'm new to healthcare. So what I would do when I would discover these issues is send it to my boss, who would send it to his boss. And it would go all the way up the ladder to our chief marketing officer, to our CEO. And obviously, I wasn't very popular at work. I'm still not. I haven't figured out why. But if you guys have any pointers, let me know. But we had to have a lot of conversations with them. So they sit in a different building. They have a different org structure. They have different KPIs. And at the beginning, we weren't talking the same language. So we were butting heads a lot, saying like, hey, look at all these calls that aren't being answered, or all these calls that are going to voicemail. And when you're sitting on the other side receiving all of that, if you don't know we're coming from a good place, that could hurt a little bit, and there was definitely a lot of tension there. So the discovery is great, but I think being the person who has to show all these problems to people, I've learned over the years that it's good to come with a solution as well. So what did we actually do about all of this? With the call transferring, people being bounced around from place to place, we use smarter routing options. So with Invoca, we know who you are. If we've interacted with you before, we know who you are. We know what page you're calling from. We know what ads you've interacted with. So we know that already. We can guess, all right, this is a better place to send you than somebody else might if you're just calling the call center. So we've used technology to improve that process. For the messaging service, this was one of our first things that we did, but again, it's a third party, so they were just taking information in the beginning. We've now trained them to use our scheduling software, and now when a user calls and it gets passed on to the messaging service, they can still make an appointment rather than waiting to be called back. For getting directions, we were able to implement a couple different things, like a wayfinding initiative. We put directions and pinpoint things in our IVR so that you can just select that, and you don't have to take people's time, our agents' time that are supposed to be there to schedule people, help people with billing issues or medical questions. They don't have to waste their time doing something that we can automate and use technology to improve. And speaking of technology, I told you earlier that we would butt heads with the contact center a lot. When we went through this process, we saw that they did not have the tools that they needed. We don't have an overall CRM. There are all these different systems, the 18 they use on a daily basis. And one of the things that they were, I still use the word complaining, because they do complain a little bit. But one of the things they were crying about was an auto dialer. So it was, we needed $1 million in funding for that, and marketing took the lead on that to say, hey, you need to get these babies, I'm done with this. I hope this isn't recorded. Yeah, you need to get these people the auto dialer. So once they saw that we were on their side, that really did help change the conversation a lot, and now we work hand in hand to come up with the solutions. Additionally, the variability that people were having when they contacted us, we have scripts in place. We've worked with the contact center on that to make sure when they contact us, we have all the same opening and closing statements and in their care. And then lastly, the voicemail. So Invoca has some pretty cool technology. I'm not sure if you've used all of it, but there are so many options. So one of the things we saw with voicemail was that thousands of calls every day were going to voicemail. And unfortunately, a lot of those weren't being called back. Like, as I said before, if they're busy at the time the voicemail is being left, they're probably too busy to call you back. So one of the things we did was, if a call was likely to go to voicemail, we would give them an option, say, press 9 to receive a text message and schedule your appointment online. So they press 9, get a text to their phone that would go to our online scheduling platform, and then rather than losing those people because of our organizational issues, we're improving their experience, getting them the appointment they needed when they wanted it, and also taking some of that volume off of the doctor's offices. So what are the results from that? I don't know, several people this week already have mentioned a testimonial video that apparently all of Invoca sends out to everybody. But at one point we had 12 full-time people listening to our phone calls, and our signal accuracy for that appointment schedule is up to 96%. So I had pause for applause in there. I didn't. Those people still have jobs. Like the robots aren't taking over. I think that's what everyone thinks when I try to explain what I'm doing, but they still have jobs. They are able to spend their time on more important things than just sitting there listening to phone calls. They can be out in the community, out in the doctor's offices, helping our patients in other ways. Our conversion rate overall increased to 68%. 68% is still bad, in my opinion. So I think we have a long way to go. When I started at university hospitals, there are some routes that you could take that the conversion rate was less than 10%. So an increase to 68% is huge. Last year alone, we saw an increase in conversion rate of 300%. So a lot of work has gone into this, and we're going a long way, but still have improvement to make. Additionally, the directions and some of the other call deflections that we've been able to do, I think as marketers, everyone thinks more calls is better. But when you look at all of that call volume, especially when you're talking about 500,000 calls a month, how do we handle that? Can we handle some of that with technology to reduce the costs and increase the journey and the conversion rate? So we're able to deflect 50,000 calls that are direction related using our IVR and some smarter routing options, as well as a wayfinding app and push notifications. And then the thing that I'm most excited about, is the most recent thing, is our fix to the voicemail solution. So of those people that were going to go to voicemail, 46% of those are now choosing the online scheduling option. So the money that we put in to drive people there through our marketing and just the overall impact and journey that they're having, that has seen a huge improvement, because even though they're calling, they're still given another option to schedule rather than leave a voicemail. We're seeing huge success from that already. Thank you. Okay, and then lastly, what's the impact? So I think the biggest impact for us has been the ability to measure return on investment. So in the past, we were reporting on clicks and impressions as a success rate for our marketing. Our previous agency was using a success rate for phone calls of over 2 minutes. And I know sometimes people need to do that, but after we implemented Invoca and saw all of those other things that are happening on calls, we were able to do away with that. And then the biggest thing we've been able to do with return on investment and Invoca is tie that first call not only to an appointment, but in healthcare all the way down the funnel. So we're looking at how much money are we actually receiving in revenue after it goes through the insurance company and all of that. So we're able to tie those clicks as far down as you can possibly go, and then build it out into the patient journey so you see the whole picture. And next is changing the conversation. So as I said before, with the call center, and I still do joke about them, probably too often, but we were able to change the conversation. They truly believe we're not here to point fingers. We're not here to say you're doing a bad job and here's how you need to get better. We're showing them time and time again that we're here to help them. We're willing to put money behind it. Whatever helps you do your job better, that helps us as well. So changing that mindset, as well as changing our technology, has really helped push us forward quickly. And then lastly, expanding the vision. Because the culture has changed there, we're doing things now like rerouting those people that were going to go to voicemail to an online scheduling platform that we didn't even have a year ago. So just being able to do things like that inspires people to just think outside the box and get outside of that silo and think, okay, how can we make this better? Our University Hospitals has been around since 1866. And I think in healthcare we have that mindset all the time of, all right, well, we've been doing it this way so long, why are we going to change anything? But the improvements and success that we've been able to see over the past couple of years is changing that conversation and expanding people's vision so that they can see what the possibilities are. Thank you guys for having me. I hope you guys have a great time this week.